right. So we're back.
Well, what was it you always used to say? I think it was like, "Hi guys."
Oh yeah, hi guys. We just watched Earwig and the Witch. Oh shit, that is what it's called.
Earwig and the Witch's Flower. We don't even remember the name.
No, but that's Mary and the Witch's Flower. I think it's just called Earwig and the Witch.
Oh, it's not even "and the Flower"? Oh yeah, because they're...
That's Mary and the Witch. Yeah, it's Earwig and the Witch.
Okay, it's the other film. You know, I completely believed it was Earwig and the Witch's Flower because this film makes no sense. And even if that were the title, I wouldn't guess. I wouldn't have made a second guess.
Right. So it's Earwig and the Witch.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, this is the newest Studio Ghibli film. Do you know when it was it made during the pandemic?
When was it released?
It says 2020. But it'll be later 2020. I remember.
I'll look it up. Earwig and the Witch.
Oh yeah, this is a laid back podcast.
It says here February 3rd, 2021.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, maybe before we start, we should talk about the fact that this is the first time we've been doing this since, 2 years? At least for me, it has been.
It's been more. Yeah, it's 2 years or more.
Yeah.
But also, we're planning to put this in podcast areas, and there's not going to be video, as you can see.
Not see.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm Kevin, and
yep, I'm Mark.
Do we? Yeah, Mark. Okay. Well, are we using real names? I don't even know.
I mean, I'm probably not gonna say my last name, but I'll go by my first name.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, this is just a chill thing that we're doing because we watch certain movies that I feel like not many people talk about. This is not one of those cases, but we're just gonna do these whenever we feel like it.
Yep.
And it could be any movie, and that's that. So I'm thinking we should have a spoiler-free.
Yeah, we'll do it the same way as we did it last time. So we'll talk about it without spoilers, and then make it clear when we go in.
Yeah.
And then
we also did a thing where we did recommendations during the spoiler-free section.
Yes, I remember that.
I'm going to slightly change that and say, if there's a recommendation that we have that involves knowing something about the film, we can wait till the spoiler corner to do that, because I have one recommendation that is good for the spoiler-free zone, and then a few that are good for the spoiler zone.
You have a recommendation?
Oh, I have a few recommendations. They're interesting. Oh yeah, you're gonna love it.
Oh man,
getting outside of the box. It's good to be back. So, let's just put it that way.
So where should we start?
Or do we do star ratings?
What's your rating? I think I know what mine is.
So, yeah, we're doing standard letterboxed, 5 up to 5 stars. Half stars are involved. Did we usually guess each other's ratings, or would we just go for it?
Just go for it.
Okay, mine is half a star.
Half a star. Mine is 1 star. Yeah. I'm not going that low.
Interesting.
Mine gets...
for a movie to be half a star, it has to be offensive. I found this film offensive.
It is offensive.
At least to the reputation that the studio that produced it has.
Maybe after some discussion, I'll change it to half a star. But I'm giving it 1 star because there were moments that I thought were nice. There were, but there was only a small smidgen. Everything else, I totally agree, is absolutely shameful. This film is an embarrassment.
It's
an absolute embarrassment. Yeah.
So, if you rank this director, by the way, this is directed by Miyazaki's son, Hayao Miyazaki's son, Goro Miyazaki.
I feel sorry for that guy, man.
Would you rank this film? Let me guess. So, From Up on Poppy Hill is his best, and then Tales of the Dragon Earth or whatever is second, and then this is the worst.
I'm not sure. Ocean Waves.
Is that called?
Okay, so there's a YouTube video out there that actually makes a case for Ocean Waves, and it's.
Did you do Ocean Waves? I didn't see that on the Letterboxd.
Or is that Ocean? No, that's okay. Never mind.
Tales
Go
of
do
the
not do
Earthsea
Ocean
or
Waves.
whatever.
Okay, so forget Ocean Waves.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
And my title was confusing.
Did Goro
I
do
half-assed.
Secret of Aridity?
No, Secret of Ariete? No, it's just... No, he only did From Up on Poppy Hill and then Tales of the Earthsea.
Oh, it's only those two. Okay.
And then
then the
this.
ranking is pretty clear. Then Poppy Hill, Earthsea, and then this film is last.
Are there any commonalities between the three that you can find? I have not seen the other two, by the way. That's where we're...
Earthsea is also a mess.
Okay.
That's the commonality. I mean, to be honest.
Interesting. I mean, is this a mess or is this just...
It is a mess. It's haphazard and like I felt like the production of this was just crazy. That's what the film is giving me the vibe of.
Yeah.
Because like
I mean, it feels like somebody who really does not know how to use 3D and trying certain things out and trying to keep an anime root in weird ways. Anyway, I don't know how... When should we... Okay. I mean, for the non-spoiler section, I'm just going to say, watch this if you're fascinated. If the concept of it fascinates you and you want it for laughs, I mean, okay, if you want it for laughs, don't watch it because it's not funny. It's kind of painful.
The only reason
slow.
The only reason you should watch this film is if you're a Studio Ghibli fan and you want to see how this experiment turned out.
You want to watch for science.
Yeah, it's like more of an appreciation of if you're a hardcore Ghibli and you are willing to embrace the failures, and I don't know. This film, it feels like it's only important in context, to be honest, because I mean, to me, something I haven't written in my notes here is this feels like it was made 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. This feels like a Chinese animation that I watched growing up.
Yeah, that's...
Like a show. This feels like
a show. Yeah, that's really good. That's really accurate.
This feels like 3 episodes of an animated TV show mashed into one film. Okay, I'm going to say my recommendation now. It's a board game. Go play Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Oh my god, are all of your recommendations going to be board games?
No, just this one. Like, honestly, if you... It's a game about potion making, and there were scenes in this movie where I'm like, oh, I really feel like playing Quacks right now. If you know the game, you could fit 2 games of Quacks within the runtime of this movie, and that would be some time well spent.
Or maybe even 3. Yeah, that would be more spending. That would be much more worthwhile your time playing Quacks. I totally agree. In terms of movies, I mean, the only recommendation I can think of that makes sense is any other Ghibli film that's well regarded.
Right. The other thing is we haven't seen Mary and the Witch's Flower, neither of us, and I know the title shares some resemblance. And also, one of the characters has red hair, and I'm wondering if is there a universe tie-in? Could be. I don't know.
We should talk a little bit about that because there is some complicated notions if it is implied that the universe is the same.
I'm wondering, like, when you should start, because I'm interested in this video that you've watched, but I don't know when we should introduce that.
Oh, it didn't say. I mean, it's like any other YouTube video.
Okay, I see. Well, I mean, like, when in our discussion should you introduce it? Because I want to hear what this...
Oh, I'm not
this
planning on
YouTuber...
introducing it. I mean, the opinions were mostly what we would think, but I think what we have to say is more interesting, at least to us, because we...
Okay, sure.
We both know a lot about Ghibli and have our own thoughts.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So there is a video essay on this. So if you want to look at it, look it up. I might watch it myself after this, but yeah, I guess we won't bring it up for the sake of this. Also, weird British worship. That's all I'll say.
I mean, that's all over Ghibli. It feels weird here because the storytelling is really not really messy.
Okay.
Yeah, like
well, I'm ready to go into spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I do feel rusty playing this pod. Just to get a little self reflect. Like I feel like my speaking skills have gone to the shitter. But I don't know.
I mean, that's why I want to do this, because I mean, like,
yeah, that's true.
Our speaking skills. I was trying to explain something in a Zoom call to someone the other day, and like my train of thought just went totally off the rails, and I completely embarrassed myself. So yeah, I totally want to. This is the closest thing I think I have right now to, like, have any excuse to need to put my words in
yeah,
a good order. Yeah, so this is good practice for both of us.
All right, enough self-reflection. Let's go into the spoiler corner.
Yeah, spoiler time. If you haven't seen this movie, just don't watch it unless
or listen to what we say and
Ghibli fan.
and enjoy our breaking it apart.
Okay, so where should we start?
Wow. I'm going to do a recommend. Okay, we're going to start from the beginning of the film. So the beginning of the film takes place in an orphanage. And it led me to believe it was a certain type of movie. A very wholesome.
Too. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I actually have a recommendation for that. So there's because it actually gave me similar vibes before. So in the first few scenes we hear or we see Earwig or Erica Wig hang out with this boy named Custard, and they're like, oh, we're gonna stay here forever. But their dialogue was so weird that I didn't get that until the scene where the witch and the mandrake dude came in. I'm like, oh, they actually want to stay here. Like, a lot of the shit, there's a lot of exposition in this movie, but it doesn't feel like it knows how to do exposition. I don't know. A lot of the things the film is insinuating wasn't clear until later. Like, do we know why she didn't want to leave?
I have no idea. I remember in that scene thinking, so my expectation was that this was the kind of movie where they were going to be in a shithole orphanage, because that's sort of the stereotype that I'm used to.
Exactly.
I feel like every orphanage story, or almost every orphanage story that I've come across, if not all of them, are about how awful the orphanage is.
Yeah.
And like how the kids band together respite that. So it was very weird for the kids just to be like, I want to live here forever. The shepherd pie is great, and I love the chef. Without really any explanation of why she wanted to leave. At first I thought maybe it was like she wants to stay because she wants her mother to find her later. But that even made clear if she even knew about the circumstances of why she came to the orphanage in the first place.
I agree.
But the other thing is confusing. Yeah.
Even way before we knew what her true motivations were, the film pulls this bait and switch where she tries to talk well to the matron or whatever and be like, oh, I really hope I get adopted today. And then it turns out she doesn't want to get adopted. So that's deliberately confusing. That added nothing to her character.
Her character was all over the place.
It was kind of all over the place.
This movie is just all over the place.
Yeah. I do feel like there are some similarities to, like, I can see how Goro Miyazaki was inspired by a lot of just Ghibli female protagonists. That kind of strong-willed, but yet still vulnerable type of thing. But this is just watered down.
This movie is almost entirely encompassed of things that it loves about Ghibli and is trying to duplicate and utterly failing
Right,
at
exactly.
It.
Well, I actually do have a recommendation for the orphanage part. There's a French film called My Life as a Zucchini.
Oh, yes, I was thinking of that film. That is an excellent recommendation.
Have you seen it?
I have, yes.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, really
that
good.
one plays on a lot of the orphanage tropes, but I think it does it very well. I was very moved by it.
Yeah, it's a really good film of the kids getting through hard times. Themes.
Yeah.
And dealing with
some harsh shit, some
the hardship in the
really
world.
feel good shit. It's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what else do I want to say? Yeah. Also, the film's way of handling these emotional things is not really great. Hold on. Give me a quick second. We'll edit this out. All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm back. We'll edit that out or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a little background noise. Yeah, the way the film does emotion is so weird. So throughout the film, like she she talks to this cat named Thomas, and then she accidentally says Custard's name instead. Also, Custard's named Custard, one, because it's set in England and this film loves England, and two, because Custard has blonde hair, which I find really dumb. Not that Custard has blonde hair is dumb, but because he's blonde, it calls him Custard.
I have a feeling that's something from the novel where the charm didn't translate.
Oh, right, it is from a novel.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see, as I said that, I understood, because he's an orphan, maybe he didn't have, a real name, or he didn't like his real name, so they named him Custard. That's actually really cute. Mm-hmm. I just made that up, and it's probably the real thing, and it's better than anything in this movie. that happened to Custard.
Something I have written down here is, in regards to the story, there are no consequences to anything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has any value. Anything that happens.
This is interesting because this is going to be a total. We're just going to start comparing shit based on what we've seen. But the last film that Mark and I watched was Justice League, and we had a similar criticism. The Justice League, the theatrical cut. We're getting to the Snyder cut. I've seen it. He hasn't. But yeah, we talked about how that film didn't have consequences, and I actually find that these two films, this one and Justice League, they both try to do consequence. It's always through a lot of dialogue and poor character development. Mm-hmm. Or failed attempts at humor. What was the part where the cat just says a bunch of oh, I just swore a lot. And that's the spell that I gave.
Yeah, that was
Let's see if it helps us.
That was such an important plot point. They go to all this trouble to make that spell. It was 100 things, which, I mean, putting aside even the logical sense of a little girl would even know how to do that, knowing nothing about magic. She's not
very tall. She probably can't reach the shelves. And she needs to do it in one night where there was never even a risk of the witch finding out about her because it was done through a montage.
Yeah. And yeah, while they're casting the spell and doing all the magical stuff, the cat afterward just says "Oh lol, I didn't even really say the incantation. I was just swearing half the time."
Right, and they made it even worse because the cat also stumbles before that. So the cat says a bunch of words, and then the cat stumbles and is oh, I forgot that line, and then later says, "Oh no, that was just swearing."
Yeah, it makes me think about how Ghibli uses a lot of soft magic in their stories, and it works really well. Where soft magic is the term for magic that you don't go to lengths to explain how it works, and you sort of build it up with the story, and the rules are as a writer are looser and stuff, and they take that approach with it. And it just doesn't work because nothing makes sense. It's not that it's not explained and it seems possible. Is nothing makes sense and it doesn't seem possible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
A lot of this film, in terms of the magic, was surprisingly grounded, but that also made it super boring. And then there were these key moments where shit happened. The first time we see the portal on the wall, I thought she was going to go through it. But no, she just kind of looks at it and be oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then the next day happens.
Yeah, there's also I remember a key moment where during the climax where what's his name gets all mad and they're cowering from him.
Mandrake.
Yeah, from the Mandrake dude. And then the girl just says, "Bye, have good luck dealing with him," and then just runs into the fire. I think it was supposed to be communicated that was a portal, but it wasn't. So it was just she runs into this magical thing, and it's oh, the character knows what that is, but we don't.
This is true.
And it was not communicated that she knew this.
Yeah. Man.
And this. All right, let's talk about the music.
Ew.
The music.
Was it real? It sounded. A lot of the instruments sounded legit. Whenever there was a saxophone and one scene had an oboe.
I mean, it was well produced, which, I mean,
yeah, but
from the studio, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
a lot of it, like the percussion especially, it sounded so samey, like the same dynamic, that it didn't sound real.
Yeah, so I have here written here 90s sitcom. It sounded it's part of the reasons why I feel like this film was made 15 years ago. The soundtrack feels like it belongs to something else that does not belong to this world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the tone in the film is just it's not put in one place. There wasn't a decision where to put the tone.
Right.
And this sort of phasey indecision is really across all aspects of the film.
Yeah,
Like,
and the weirdest part is I could anticipate when a music cue was going to happen. And it was the most fun I had with this movie.
Like the most common music cue was drums start.
Yes.
And then happy music starts that
a one beat drum fill and then some sort of happy music. Yeah. And then our subtitle file had the word DJ.
Yeah, that made it even more
every
comical.
time music happened.
Yeah, it made me think
better.
with a Ghibli film, we're so used to hearing lush orchestral writing. And part of me was thinking, well, is it just that it's not that? Is that the problem? But I feel like there have been Ghibli films that have not been just orchestral writing.
Like Whisper of the Heart, which I mentioned during the watch,
Yeah.
which just uses Country Road over again. I have actually not seen it, but I hear it uses a lot of Country Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was there? Yeah. Okay. This train of thought thing needs. Yeah.
Another thing about about music. Okay, so one of the plot points in this film is a band that is very obviously from the 60s. And
especially the album cover. It looks like
the art is
from
like
the band Cream.
Straight out of straight out of the 60s.
Yeah,
and did it strike you the song that they played? There's a scene later in the film where they perform a song. And
it sounded more 70s to me.
It sounded to me like J-pop.
A little bit. I think they were going for a classic rock thing. Like
they were going for classic rock.
Yeah.
They used the instruments of classic rock, but it felt like J-pop. Which
I don't think so.
Really?
It
really
felt to me like
an
imitation of a classic rock song. Like somewhere during the funk, like funk was clearly around, and then they were just pulling off like a hard rock with a little bit of funk influence. No, I hear it as, I can't name a band though.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't strike me as particularly J-pop just because of how much blues scale is used. And there's an adherence to the blues scale that reminds me of just later era blues rock in a more Western sense.
Okay, I can give it that. Maybe I've just been listening to too much Japanese music to unhear the
That's possible.
the J-pop influence.
I guess
from
I
it.
haven't explored that corner of J-pop, if there is something that sounds similar to it.
Yeah. Well, I've been consuming almost only video game music for what seems like forever now. So.
Okay, there's some other stuff about music that I caught. So let's talk about. Okay, I want to steer the conversation towards a lot of the British influences that I saw.
And the music.
You did say that Ghibli just loves worshiping the British people. Is that?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's in Howl. It's in.
I guess so.
It's in
Just
Kiki's
that era.
Delivery Service. Like
but
if you, like the architecture, Miyazaki would send his animators to Europe, to Old Town, so that they could study the architecture there.
Interesting. So, okay, but the way Miyazaki does that is really subtle. Well, I wouldn't say subtle because obviously the people who know the architecture can see it, but it's nothing compared to this movie where they literally they slapped. There was a Starman reference, which is David Bowie.
A Starman? In the music?
No, there's a poster on somebody's room somebody's room had a Starman poster, which is a reference to David Bowie, and there was like a person that looks a little bit like David Bowie. And then the shepherd's pie, like constant references to the food. Shepherd's pie, the fish and chips, and then the boy named Custard. I mean, it's like, oh, we don't know how to actually do British things because 10 minutes of our film is in an orphanage and the rest of our film is like in this one house. So we're just going to throw in a bunch of references. Also, yeah, why is the rest of the film only in this one house? Like, that makes it so boring. Like, maybe they want the house to be a character. They add all this intrigue. Like, oh, now the door is a wall and stuff.
Yeah, if you think of it like, they were probably trying to do something similar in Howl's Moving Castle, where the house itself also is very much a character. And, like, I even remember, like, there's a scene later in the film where they expand some of the rooms, and he puts in a bathroom, and that feels significant because we've lived in, I mean, we really only explore the bottom room, and then everything upstairs just sort of feels magical. But at least the room on the bottom floor, we spend a lot of time there, and we understand the architecture of it because it's shown to us really clearly. But yeah, the house here is intentionally confusing.
Yeah,
because like magic will sit
bit.
across the wall is a different room, and
I actually found it pretty straightforward. Essentially, there's the bathroom that sometimes turns into Mandrake's room, and the bottom room is where they do all the work. And actually, you know, it's. I guess it didn't invite me to be confused about it. You know,
that's true.
Maybe it is more confusing than it leads on.
Yeah, it seemed to have its own logic, but what I mean is like, it would be difficult to. Well, I guess you could a little bit like. I know the bathroom is across from the workroom, and because I know the bathroom is across from her bedroom, then those three are all together. But I don't really understand how the connection is connected. There was an attempt, I guess you can say, to make it clear how the house is organized, but I don't know. I mean, compare this to a film like. What is the French film? Jean
Dielman?
Yeah, Jean Dielman. Where, like, we live with her in the house.
Oh. Yeah, I love the sense of space in that.
Yeah, like comparing it to a good example.
Right.
Like, there's no space in this film.
The film didn't justify using this closed space thing because we never felt any tension. Like, you know, these closed space films are really good for brewing this type of tension between characters, but of course this film never happens. And I think it's because Goro Miyazaki had a lot of limitations with the CGI 3D animation. It feels like
let's talk about the animation. Yeah.
This is how I feel like he mapped this whole thing out. He's like, okay, we're gonna have these key character moments. I don't know how to actually animate this in 3D, so we're just gonna have these few key faces. There's like the really frustrated, scary eye face. And then there are a few other faces that happen only in key scenes. Like there's this one moment where Earwig's head is tilted so far back we see just her mouth laughing. Like that's supposed to be
That was
a
the
revelation.
one time I was impressed by the facial animation.
You were?
Yeah. It was, well, because they were trying something unique with it. Every other time, they attempted to explore it, and I actually do think they were a little successful. Because compare it to something like what Pixar does.
It's better than a college project.
What Pixar does, yeah. And, I mean, what Pixar does, I mean, that style of animation is basically the style of animation in big-budget industry. And I do have to respect that they attempted to do their own thing, but into that Pixar style. Comparing the two, like, they actually did get a good leeway with the faces, but they went like 20%. They did some exploration, but you could tell they really struggled and just
if you
find
throw
it.
a bunch of stuff at the wall and make a 1 hour and 20-minute film, some of it's going to stick. And yeah, there was an attempt to do stuff with the characters. At least she wasn't stilted the whole time. although there were certain shots where like her face stays still for a little too long, and you can tell that's the 2D anime style kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like just these little baby movements, like her hair moves a tiny bit, her greasy looking hair just moves a tiny bit. It's like,
they tried to translate some of the Ghibli-esque stuff into the 3D. One thing that struck with me was like, you know how when they'll emote, their hair will stick up?
Yep.
They attempted to do that, but instead it just looked like your hair looks like it has hair gel in it. Who's your hairdresser?
Exactly. Oh man, train of thought. Okay, because you said gel, I was suddenly reminded of the specific scene where she puts the weird mixture on the cat.
Yeah, so the cat transformed from the smooth clay surface to... I felt like they had to retrospectively be like, oh, we can't make the style look like this anymore because it's wet. So then they went for this kind of ultra real fur, and
it made me feel deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, this film
oddly sexual.
straddles claymation style with like the simple flat textures, which it almost feels like, you know, untextured default 3D mesh, whatever. But they, in very specific places, it tented photorealism. In like the food, in the messy shop, with some of the magic stuff, in the more special glowy special effects, and it totally did not mix together. One comment I remember from that YouTube video I watched was commenting how in the food, how Ghibli has a reputation for food looking amazing. And they attempted to do that in this film by making the food look photorealistic, and instead it just looks dry and gross.
I thought the one shot at the beginning of the chef making the shepherd's pie looked kind of good. But I also really like shepherd's pie.
Yeah, okay.
But like the breakfast foods and when she's cooking like that, I don't even know if it's steak or bacon. That scene where she's cooking the meat and saying, "Oh, you need to learn how to cook too," that looked really lame. Like terrible.
Yeah.
And the burnt toast didn't look disgusting either. The burnt toast actually looks kind of appetizing, which is the point is that they're not getting across what they want to get across.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Going back to the claymation thing, there were some scenes. There was one scene earlier where like the witch was doing these crazy motions, and I thought the frame rate dropped a tiny bit. I could see some claymation. Like, it wasn't totally smooth. It seemed like, they just couldn't animate that fast. And there were definitely a few moments where either it was just so bad that my eyes played tricks on me, but it looked like a claymation moment where I could see little frames. Yeah, I don't know if you had any experience with like it feeling like an actual like stop motion sort of.
I never got that impression. I remember thinking like, I wonder if it would be better if they limited their animation more to be more similar to their 2D animation. But I mean, who's to say if that would be successful?
Well, yeah, this is interesting because there are many scenes in this film where where a character gets hurt, and in a 2D animation film, I feel like, you have the right to go really exaggerated with it.
Yeah,
because that's what...
There was that one scene where she got slapped.
There was that one scene. Yeah.
And I remember saying at the time, was that supposed to be impactful? Because that felt like
because the cat Thomas suddenly becomes, I don't know, the audience's link for some reason. And it seemed like it was supposed to be a big moment. But one, they didn't give enough time for it. And two, the sound design was garbage. And just the overall timing of it was awful.
Speaking of timing, speaking of timing, go ahead and finish your
before
thought.
you move on, I do want to finish this point. It just, they were already arguing, and things were already pretty heated. And for this film, pretty heated is like, I don't care. So
yeah,
there's like
because there are no consequences.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she like hits her. But okay, there are a few things that are wrong with that. We don't know what the character's capacity to get hurt are because their movements are so fake, and there was never an establishment of like, you know, like we don't see any bumps form on their head. We don't see any redness. So there was never a sort of barometer for what does a character getting hurt mean.
Yeah, I felt like...
So we don't know if it hurts.
Part of me wants to think that like they made that scene and then they realized, oh, this isn't impactful at all. So they added the cat reacting to try to give it more impact.
Well, I feel like... Didn't she hit her with a pot?
No, she just hit her with her hand.
Oh, but it was on her head. I feel like if they just went for it and it did like the face slap and made like a really realistic sound, like sure, it'd be a little uncalled for, but if it was supposed to be a big moment, it would actually...
It could be that like they were going for something more subtle, but I didn't get a reaction from either character after it happened.
Right.
We just only get a reaction from the cat.
I'm thinking about moments in other Ghibli films that really strike me. Like Grave of the Fireflies really comes through where like, you know, there would be something that just takes us out, like goes a little far and makes us realize, like, I feel like there was some sort of slapping scene in Grave of the Firefly where somebody gets his face slapped or something and we really felt it. Another moment is...
I think there is you might be right. I can't remember specifics, but I know, somewhere in Ghibli there's been some slapping scenes.
Yeah, and then there's one other moment, like in My Neighbor Totoro, which this is a slight spoiler, but it's not horrible, and you've probably seen Totoro if you're interested in this film. But in one of the in one of the climaxes, probably the main climax of the movie, emotional wise, the older sister tells the younger sister, like, do you want to die? And it seemed really, you know, at first it seems kind of out of place and a little intense, but then we realized that's how kids think. And it's because the film was willing to go that far. You know, when they're discussing the mother and how she is ill, and the older sister just goes really loud, like, do you want to die? And that's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, it felt really real and grounded.
Yeah. And so we know Ghibli, I mean, I'm overanalyzing the slapping scene or the hitting scene in this film, but I feel like Ghibli has the capacity to create a moment like that. And this is one of those things where, you know, like Mark, you were able to say that there were some moments where Ghibli tried, where Goro Miyazaki tried with the animation. I feel like they could have tried a little harder with just how these emotional beats land, because, I mean, gosh, they have examples. They have like endless examples of how to hit hard in the feels. So I don't know, gut punches.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna?
Something. The lip sync in this film. Did you notice how bad it was?
Oh man, it's terrible.
I almost got the impression that they were attempting to dub over animation that was already finished.
Well, maybe, but the syllables mostly matched. It's another thing with a 2D. It's like a 2D animation thing where, like, if somebody says like an O sound, like a ah, you can get away with a really wide open mouth.
They mostly matched, but I almost thought if maybe something was wrong with our video file, because a lot of it was off by milliseconds, I feel.
Yeah, well, I think
and it was constant throughout the entire movie.
Well, when you evolve, I won't even call it evolve. When you jump straight from like a 2D animation where character movement, like lip movement, can literally be an open mouth and a closed mouth, like, yeah, this is going to be something really hard to animate.
Well, Ghibli isn't that limited. Like, they don't do TV style anime limited animation. They animate the mouths like a traditional studio, but
this is true.
You're right. It could be just be that these animators aren't used to getting the sync of the voice acting to that. Like, there's no need because you don't need to in 2D.
Right. And the other thing is the cool thing about like having, let's say a character says something like oh or ah, and they have a really wide mouth that's more of an ah sound in a 2D animation is usually the wider mouth movement is justified because there's a certain emotion that's being conveyed that causes the character to use this more exaggerated mouth movement. And I feel like because they're trying to portray Earwig as this quirky girl, there are often times when she did certain syllables that her mouth would go extra wide. But in this film, because the overall animation just isn't there, it not only is it not emotional, like it doesn't convey any emotion, but it's also just really sloppy, like we've already mentioned. Yeah. So that's an interesting scenario where, I do feel like they're going for such a westernized. Because has there been any like 3D Japanese?
There is one that I can think of. I think it's becoming more common generally, but there's one really good 3D Japanese animated show called what is it called? Land of the Lustrous?
Really?
Something like that. It is a beautiful show. The animation in that show is fantastic, and it has fight sequences. And the 3D in that show works phenomenally.
Interesting.
And
does it feel like a Western?
Does it feel like a Western?
Like does it feel like it's more inspired by Pixar animation, or is it?
Not at all. No, it is completely grounded in here, look it up. I mean, we're in front of our computers. I bring it up in front of you right now, so you know what I'm talking about.
I'm suddenly reminded of like the Digimon transformation scenes, because that's like really old school, which used a tiny bit of 3D.
It up. Land of the
Lustrous. There it is.
Yeah, just look at some of the screenshots. It's not at all Pixar styled.
Yeah, this does remind me of the Digimon evolution scenes for some reason.
Yeah, and I think it works here because the characters are they're not made of flesh, they're made of stone. So they don't feel plastic. They feel like they look and feel and act and animate like the material that they're made of canonically.
That's almost meta in a way, because like it's almost like in order to address this type of animation, they made their characters stone. But then through that, they were able to probably convey a really good story as well. So that almost sounds like it was intentionally done for the animation style, which I think is super cool.
It's an adaptation of a manga. So I mean, that wasn't the reason. Well, it might have been. Who knows? But this is the example of how a 3D style can be done. And
for sure, a bit more cell shaded, I would say. Yeah. As far as Earwig, it definitely feels like it's trying to mimic a more Pixar style. And there's some plot that really reminds me of that too. The whole flashback with like the mom, at least I think it's her mom, the red-haired lady. Okay, first of all, the red-haired lady reminds me of the lady in Brave, the main character.
Really?
I have not seen Brave, but just the red curly hair. That's the first thing I saw. That I thought of when I saw the character at the very beginning. So I was like, oh, Brave. And the other thing is a lot of the flashbacks were like when the band disbanded. First of all, they weren't emotional at all, but they also reminded me of Coco. Because there's like a very pivotal flashback that deals with two musicians in Coco. But Coco, it was very dark and surprising. But this one, it's just, they feel like the flashback was just put there because they were they wanted to do something that Western animation does. That's what I feel like. It's the fact that they use those flashbacks in uninspiring ways that reminded me of these Pixar films.
What was really a kick in the gut was they used them in a way that didn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Like, do you remember the very first one they did? They played a flashback when she put the tape in the cassette, and pressed play. And then we were suddenly transported to when they were playing the song.
Oh my word.
And I remember us both being audibly confused, saying like, wait, did she see that? Like, is this a magical tape where she gets to see her mother playing the band and all that? Yeah. But it was just like, no, we just did that to show the audience, obviously, and we didn't explain why.
Yeah. Well, that type of flashback got better because there were later scenes that we see her being sort of transported into either her mind's eye or memory lane or whatever. And we get to see her like in a concert with the band, in the audience standing. I thought those moments were kind of nice.
They were nice.
Like at least there's some transporting. But yeah, that first one, just so bad.
Yeah, it's very, very bad.
Jarring cuts, which, man, this film has some jarring cuts.
There's a couple of cuts that are laughably bad. Remember the one where she teleports off of her stomach?
Yes, exactly. At the end. Oh, yeah. Also, yeah, that wholesome thing. Yeah, we'll talk about that but in a bit. But yeah, basically she hugs the witch at the end because she's suddenly really nice to her. And then it cuts to, the side-by-side shot, and she's not hugging her anymore. And it was a attempted emotional moment cut even shorter, even though it wasn't emotional in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you find that her character arc near the end was super uncalled for? How all of a sudden, because Mandrake told her the origin story of his band, she was suddenly like, I will never leave you.
The motivations in this film made zero sense.
Yeah, but that one particularly, because it felt like a third act type of thing, and it felt really egregious, just absolutely, just the worst. It just made me feel icky in the way it handled plot.
Oh, and now that we're out of spoilers, I wanted to say this earlier. The credits felt like it was telling a more complete story than anything before the credits.
Oh man, the credits felt like I was suddenly watching Only Yesterday, and I was so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, the credits were great. They switched the storybook style with the white background, and it was really long, and there were just the scenarios that they pose, like Mandrake holding like a lifeguard, like a lifesaver, and they're going to the beach and stuff. And they're like hanging clothes, and the witch gets embarrassed. Speaking of which, there was this shot of like the witch's undergarments in an early scene in the garden. I was like, why did we need to see that? Yeah, at this point, I'm just rapid firing stray thoughts.
Yeah, like the credits, like you were saying earlier, how this felt like a TV show. Like it felt like the movie was the first 3 episodes, and the credits were the rest of the season. I was thinking to myself,
you're so
I want to see
right.
this movie.
You're absolutely right.
Like let's. Why did you stop the movie 1/4 the way through? I mean, I want to see the movie about her becoming friends with these two these old, like washed away
old farts.
Used to be rock stars.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's potential for an emotional arc, which I'm sure exists in the book.
Well, also, anytime she knew that it was her mother with the red hair,
did she ever learn that? I don't think she did.
No, I don't think so. But at the very end,
we knew from the very beginning as the audience,
exactly.
But the main character never learned it, as far as I know.
And the whole thing about the orphanage, it just doesn't make any sense. We go through the pain. The first 2 minutes, I want to say, of the film was the mom driving a motorcycle, going somewhere with her. So, like, you'd figure
she was chased. Why was she being chased? We have no idea.
Oh, man. And right from the beginning, I knew something was off when there was a yellow car that just jumped. There was chase, and there was a yellow car that just jumped up. And I'm like, no. This is from some bad N64 game cutscene. That makes no sense. And the animation's a little smoother, but sure.
There were parts in the animation that reminded me of the very first Pixar film, Toy Story.
Well, Toy Story, oh man,
like it looked like it came from that era. It's just,
it does,
disgusting.
And some parts feel like some of the earlier shorts. You know, the one with like the little tin the tin soldier with the symbols.
The early animations, shorts. Yeah,
some of it even reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's
like there were just some of the character movements made no sense. Like there was one moment when Earwig was like, it's also a terrible name. I hate myself every time I say that name. Gosh,
I'm sure it's a wonderful name of the book, but this movie makes it feel repulsive. Yeah,
right. But like she's like standing on one foot and like she's trying to balance something with the arm, and I'm like, that just doesn't, like, realistically that would be really fun. Or they do a really exaggerated, like, they lift the foot super high in like a 2D anime style. It's like, oh, I'm really losing balance. But they just end up somewhere halfway, and it just looks like an unconvincing, like it's like she doesn't need gravity. I can't tell you which. It was a specific moment where she's standing on one leg, and I'm like, oh, gravity doesn't exist.
Remember that moment where I said, oh my God, that towel is awful.
Yeah.
and you didn't see it.
Some of the object movement wasn't. Yeah, there were moments where like we would call like, oh, that was terrible. And then the other person would say no. It's because there was like a silk scarf or something in the very beginning in the orphanage that already looked terrible. And so I was adjusted to like cloths looking bad.
Yeah, which, to be fair, that's like one of the hardest things to animate.
It's very hard. And honestly, they did okay. Well, with the silk scarf, I'm like, I was able to, maybe that's why the towel didn't look bad. I kind of had to jump over that hurdle at the beginning. Because one of the first things I noticed was,
I think a lot of this film can just be attributed to inexperience, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like these animators obviously know what they're doing, but it's, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm making assumptions of that based on, because this is from Ghibli. From all I know, they outsourced all this to a different studio, which I do remember in the beginning they said they made this association with another studio. But
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, man, who knows? Let's see, anything here in my notes?
Okay. So let's talk about the worms. I want to talk about the climax because it didn't make any sense. So there were these blue worms.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be really bad. The whole film was building up on these worms. And why were the worms bad? Because Mandrake gets pissed off and turns into a demon?
I think...
Like, is that why?
It was supposed to make sense. Okay, I think we can assume that there is logic to why it makes sense, because this is an adaptation.
Oh, What if they really made it? I refuse to believe that the entire adaptation takes place in that house and it's just about, oh, you're going to help me work today. Go to the garden. Oh, come back. Go to the garden again.
One film this reminded me of, maybe I should have said this as a recommendation before, is Coraline, where, she's abducted by someone and she wants to get out. And, I mean, it's totally different dynamic, but, I mean, that was mostly in a house. It's not entirely inside the house, but it's inside the house and outside the house into the neighbors.
Imaginative.
And it's totally imaginative, unlike this film. But anyway, getting back to the logic, we were made to understand that the worms were scary, but the worms weren't actually scary because she made a 100-ingredient potion that protected her from all magic.
Yeah, so then she sends the worms to the other room, and it was Mandrake's room. And then Mandrake comes out and was like really pissed, and we see Big Demon. And then we get a bunch of the little bat things, which, whoa, that's a whole... that's like them trying to do like Minions or the Lemmings in Norm of the North or something. Yeah, but just some that sight, the little creatures that...
There was one scene where I found myself laughing, where they did like a little funny thing with one of the minions, where like
he went up to her
and said something stupid and then left.
Yeah, there was one that had an egg on top of its covering its eyes, like an eggshell, and then it said "Wow."
I remember laughing then, not because I found it funny, but because I was embarrassed.
Oh, I found that funny.
By how unfunny it was.
Really? I actually found the comedic time. See, this is where we differ. I found the comedic timing of that moment super good.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of crazy shit happening. And I was even questioning the physics because it seemed like some of the minions were just going through her as she was underneath the bed. But then there's this one, within all that confusion, suddenly absolute silence, and this one minion goes, "Wow!" And I don't know, it was more better timed than anything else in this movie, so I laughed.
Another well-timed moment. Do you remember there was one shot with some stylized animation where she gets scared on, I think, the portals on the wall, and she like does this weird tiptoe thing in straight lines behind and then under the bed with her arms in L shapes. Do you remember that?
Oh, my word.
I remember thinking that was cool. Another thing I have here in my notes is that there are small moments that are impressive.
Yeah, I thought that moment was horrifying and it was bad.
Oh, I thought it was just like, oh, it was, to me, it was like, oh, you're experimenting with the animation in a cool way.
True.
Like, it's not amazing, but it's like, it's unique. And,
right.
And like, another thing was, I mean, this is probably from the novel, not from the studio, but like, putting extra hands on the witch, that's cool. That's a cool plot point. I thought that was really clever. Putting like, there's a scene where she has horns and they make it into a silhouette so that it's super obvious, which they never actually did anything with that. So
I thought
totally
that
dropped the ball.
right from the beginning, I noticed that her hair looked somewhat like antlers or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess it was just a through line through the entire thing. But yeah, no, they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. Another one here I have written down is, I kid you not, the way the cat's eyes were glowing in the dark.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was reaching for things to be impressed by.
Oh, no,
that was
I
one
did
of
like
them.
that. No, yeah, because there were scenes where, like, yeah, the witch would be really mad at Earwig, and then the cat eyes would just suddenly light up, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because the eyes themselves, yeah, they look kind of dope. They're kind of good. Yeah.
There was one scene where you started cracking up where the cat smiled seductively. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I did. It's like the typical, like, oh, I guess I'll be your sidekick, but it's also the specific way they animated the smile. Mm-hmm. It was a blend of just absolute corniness. I don't even want to say corniness because it's way too positive a word, but cliched, but also just sappy, and then combined with that face, it was really horrible. Yeah, I want to explore a bit more on just going at the very beginning. You know how like she's supposed to want to stay in the orphanage?
Yeah.
And the moment she follows the witch, she just changes. She's like, oh, learn magic. And the fact that she trusted in this evil witch that, oh, she's actually going to teach me magic because she's definitely a woman of her word. Like, that didn't make any sense.
I guess it's like, I guess I can understand retroactively that she would think that because she's never had anyone lie to her before, maybe.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Well, there was a scene where she's supposed to be like, oh, this is the first time I didn't get what I wanted to or something.
Yeah, I remember that line too, being really surprised by it.
Oh, and then there was a scene in the bedroom where like it's supposed to be really emotional because she just stares into space for a really long time. It was quiet for a really long time, and you can tell they were trying to make us feel something for her, but I just didn't. Mm-hmm. And I have a hypothesis for like why a lot of her character changes were so swift. I think it's because they were trying to pull off something like in Spirited Away. You know how Chihiro was kind of a neutral character, but because through her we are able to see this world, and it works so well because there are times where she would be valiant and headstrong, and it's in a way that surprises us because there are times where she's more or less a blank canvas. She's forced to work, but then Miyazaki paints into that canvas and makes her a character that we invest in. Mm-hmm. I think this is a situation where they're trying to do something similar, where they want to do this character that's so neutral that she can be interesting by having these character shifts, except it just falls flat on its face.
Yeah, I can see, like, we get enough semblance of the story that I imagine if I read this book, I could definitely think to myself, this would be a really fun Ghibli film, because it has all of the marks of one.
I agree.
The young girl who's really independent and does her own thing and is exploring a magical world. Like, yeah, that's key Ghibli. And despite
the setup
everything
is pretty
goes
good,
wrong in all the wrong ways.
That's all the wrong ways. Yeah. What was I gonna say? There's something about the ending where like the reveal of the band and all that seemed really odd. I wanted to say, but I can't. I don't know. This movie's
I remember thinking at the end, like nothing was set up, nothing was concluded. There's still so much we need to do in this story.
Yes, I know what I was going to say because I wrote it down. Huzzah, I should read my notes a bit more. One little detail. There was one moment where the witch says no singing in the house, and it was clearly done just so that she could be stern, because like, how could she not hear the music blasting from the cassette player every night?
Yeah.
Oh my word. And then, what is with the breakfast table and constant reports of weather in different Asian cities? Like one morning it's Jakarta, one morning it's Seoul. And
wait a minute. They were okay. I thought this story was set somewhere in England. Do you think it wasn't?
I think it was.
I think it was too, but then why would they be reporting about the weather in Japan, in Asia?
It's like Mandrake is just obsessed with worldwide weather. Because they go into, they say Sydney weather at some point, but we only just hear the weather report.
That's really weird.
It's a bizarre detail. And speaking of bizarre details, Meta newspaper.
Oh boy, I want to go back to that.
I can
frame.
Yeah, you want it? You think it's worth it just during the recording of this? Because what I saw was just literally Earwig, and
I found the scene.
Yeah, basically, Mandrake writes a book that is the name of the movie, and so the book is in the movie. The book that inspired is in the movie because he's supposed to be a children's book writer. And all of the other books in this movie are, like, real. She likes mysteries, Sherlock Holmes, Hounds of Baskerville, and then Custard likes sci-fi. So there was some sci-fi book that he was reading that seemed quite real. Red Planet or something.
Okay, just found it.
What's going on?
Oh my god, I'm finding the scene where she just starts drumming on the pots just without
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the whole reconciliation scene where she's suddenly nice to everybody and it's like, oh. No, but see, this is what I was going to elaborate on before you talk about the meta stuff. But yeah, right when she has the change of heart to stay, I feel like it would have been so much better if she suddenly knew that her mom was in the band.
Yeah, they never revealed that.
Like, that was a good moment to reveal that. And so in the end, when it's Christmas, and then the woman walking with Custard was the mom, it didn't, like, it was Earwig's first time seeing her. It's like, who the heck is this lady? You know? But for the audience, I guess that's what the movie is trying to do. Make it seem important for the audience that, oh my gosh, she's alive. Because there was a fake Coco flashback where it seemed like something bad happened to her. But no, she's just alive and well.
Oh, I think I found the scene.
You're still finding the scene?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Okay. Here it is. Okay. All right. Earwig and the Witch. Masterpiece of this century. Brilliantly clever.
Oh, get out of here. Oh, no. Okay, maybe that was worth it then. Oh,
the Galactic Fantasy Award winner is a brilliant marriage of fantasy and crime fiction.
Oh, because what? She holds her hostage or something?
I have no idea.
Well, also... Yeah, I wonder if Earwig liking all those mysteries is like a through line. Like there's some connection of like, oh, she's being held in this house. I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as to say crime.
Man,
Anything
I have no
else?
idea. Okay, so there's this. Wait, what is this supposed to represent, though? In the moment, I thought maybe it was like. Okay, one part of me, one headcanon I have is that Mandrake is a write-in for Goro. And
wow.
I don't know if that has any validity, but like the mad artist who wants to be left alone. Oh, wait a minute! It just struck me.
What?
Mandrake is a write-in for Miyazaki. Hayao.
No.
Yeah, he's the artist who wants to be left alone and is really angry all the time. That's Hayao Miyazaki.
Holy shit.
It all makes sense now.
It does really make sense.
Yeah, and then Earwig and the Mix by Mandrake, masterpiece of the century, and then the next shot is him fuming.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It makes so much sense now.
Oh, yes, it does. That's so weird. I don't even know. Yeah, because Miyazaki's known for his big glasses, and we just see the glasses. And no, he even pays homage to his father, because if Mandrake's his father, then like, every time his foreheads glow pink, maybe it's him just saying, yes, my father was a brilliant man. He has these forehead pink moments where like he's got these brilliant ideas, but he's also cranky, and I'm going to expose him, except it's going to be like hidden.
Yeah.
This is why, see, I already suspected that the novel is quite different from, this is a pretty loose adaptation.
Probably.
And this gives me, full evidence that this is probably a really loose adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No freaking way. Film conspiracy theories. No, that's so true. Because, I think...
But that's just a theory.
Oh, man. Okay. Speaking of interesting thought experiments, I mean, no, that's most definitely it. But I wrote something very interesting here. And this is a film I'm going to recommend. Suicide Club. And here's why.
Why?
Here's why. And there might be some spoilers for Suicide Club. And I'm hoping that the next chunk of time just dedicates to this because I'm interested. Suicide Club also deals with a one-hit wonder music group. And where the link is not known until the end of the film. And the way both films get to the spot where the music and the song and the group become fully linked with the rest of the film feels equally long-winded. Because I thought Suicide Club was okay, but I thought the way it tied into this girl group was a little convoluted. Just like the way this film did it.
Well, at least in Suicide Squad, it felt like it had an agenda.
Squad. Don't say squad. Not squad.
Oh, Suicide Club. Whoops.
Yes. Yeah, what were you going to say? At least in Suicide Club?
At least in Suicide Club, it felt like it had an agenda.
It did have an agenda.
This film...
Well, this film has an agenda, too. It's to tug at your heartstrings badly.
Yeah, but it can't.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this double pairing with Suicide Club and the way it's the way they navigate towards that band thing. Because in this film, even in the opening credits, we see like the drums and shit. So there's like a foreshadowing that some sort of rock music is going to play a big role in it.
I don't really buy it, but okay.
I see the connection. It's there. Feel free to watch both films and tell me if that's something you see.
A better pairing I can think of is maybe something like this film and Earthsea, but that would that would not be fun.
Watch it over 2 nights, and I don't know.
If you, what else could you pair this movie with? I mean, that would be the worst idea ever, but.
I mean, that's why I want to watch Mary and the Witch's Flower, because I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, that's a better idea.
I mean, that's not by the same person, but I don't know. Recent Ghibli?
Yeah, recent Ghibli has a weird association with it. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious how Hayao's next film that's been in production for so long will turn out after all of this.
Yeah.
It's been in production for a long time, so I
This is
assume something good would come out of it.
Man, the dad theory's so good. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The dad theory's so good. I think I saw some video about how
You know what? I'm gonna look up online and see if there's any.
I feel like this is stuff that should be done after the episode.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Should
That's
be done
fair.
in our
That's
own
fair.
time.
Maybe it's time to wrap up. I think
it's time to wrap up.
Yeah.
We've talked about this film long enough.
Yeah.
But bad movie.
Bad movie indeed. Terrible
Interesting
movie.
Experiment. But I don't
maybe
think
I will.
this
Maybe
film should have been
I'll keep it at
released.
1 star because
Yeah.
I can only give a movie a half star if like I feel like my soul has been drained. My soul was not drained with this. I was just very disappointed.
My faith in not my faith in Studio Ghibli, because I think they'll bounce back somehow. But it's just I feel like this film is such an insult to the studio that I have to give it a half
really
a star.
is.
Yeah. Really do. But I'm glad that after this talk you maintained your 1 star. Congrats.
Yeah, I have to keep it because like they tried something new and
sure
occasionally did something interesting. But
that's super positive. That's the most positive.
The overwhelmingly majority of this is a train wreck.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
That's Earwig and the Witch.
All right.
Okay.
How do we usually end these?
Remember, just look forward to the next movie that we watch.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Is that the next one we're gonna watch?
Nah, but like that's coming soon. We'll do a bunch of shit. Hoping to get Cloud Atlas on there. That should be a really entertaining talk.
Yeah, we'll do that one too.
Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Take care. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now you can listen to our sponsor. We have no sponsor.
Raid Shadow Skillshare Legends. All right. See ya.
All right. Goodbye.